In this video, I'm going to be talking about the client journey, what it is, and how we can reimagine it in order to help take businesses forward into an entirely new dynamic. So the client journey traditionally is really looking at quite a linear way at how many touch points it takes to move somebody from their first point of contact to becoming a paid customer, how they move through a sales pipeline, whether that's an inbound or an outbound sales pipeline, and how they become a loyal customer. Now, there's a pretty good reason why I don't like a lot of the language and concepts that are bundled up in this. And that's got a lot to do with the fact that it's all built around big data-driven businesses, which is a very poor fit for transformational businesses. It's also focused almost exclusively on financial return on investment, which makes it a very poor fit for conscious businesses that are equally as focused on social and environmental outcomes of their businesses. It's also predicated upon the need to have repeat customers, which for transformational businesses is actually also a very poor fit, because we're often looking at creating sustainable solutions where we don't necessarily want our clients to come back. So it's not the greatest fit. It's also, as I mentioned briefly, it's linear. It's moving people through a predetermined set of steps in order to become a paid customer. When in reality, people have very different needs and very different journeys, and they will be coming in and out of that preconceived idea for different reasons at different times. And so we actually need something that is much more flexible in the way that we put it together, and that allows us to meet our needs and ethics and ethos of a transformational business as well as a conscious business. So one of the ways that I approach this is, instead of thinking of it in a linear way, is I focus on the transformational aspects. So when somebody wants to come in, they can come in at any point of a journey, they can stay for as long as they want, and they can move on in their own way. And that's very different from this linear approach to a client journey. What we are moving towards is understanding that people can come in and can come out, and that is not a loss. So in a conventional sales pipeline, that would be seen to be a lost lead, but that isn't necessarily the case in a transformational business. Actually, what you've created, if somebody comes in, gets what they need, and then moves on their way, sometimes that's all that you were there to do, and that's all that they need. And that's not a lost opportunity. That's a great opportunity. So it's thinking about our businesses in a much more dynamic and fluid way that allows us to see many dimensions to that customer journey, which means people can come in at any point in that journey, they can go out at any point in that journey. So people can, instead of following a nice, neat path, they can jump right in towards the very end of the path. And I've had many clients who do that, who just, they will get into, and they will see something of mine, they will go, that's it, and then they will just jump straight in at quite a deep level, whereas other people will take a lot more time to move through the journey and make the changes they need to make in order to be ready for the work. So understanding that the client journey can be multidimensional is a really important distinction from the traditional version, that allows us to focus more on the transformational aspects of that journey. And when we focus on the transformation, we can understand what people need in a different way and how our business can be designed to meet that. So let's talk a little bit about the framework that I use and how I'm using that to try and rethink the entire concept of the client journey. So it begins with your audience. Now, your audience are the people who have some form of contact with you or your content. So they're people who are aware of you and they're interested. So if somebody's not interested, they're not in your audience, because they're just going to keep moving on. But if you have somebody who is, it's like something kind of sets something off for them, it sparks a little bit of interest, it sparks some curiosity. Really, in your audience, you're making waves, you're shaking things up a little bit, you're focusing on things that are going to potentially challenge them to see things in a different way or think in a different ways. Doesn't necessarily mean at this point that they are going to become one of your clients, or that they're going to move any closer to you. It may be that that is all that you need to do with them. Just make a few waves, and then they'll make some more connections on their own, and then they'll disappear off and do something else that is absolutely perfect for them. So your audience is quite a big group of people. Your audience is not the place that you can focus on in order to grow your business now. Your audience is where you are growing your business in the future. So it's a really important part of your overall business development strategy. It's an important part of your marketing. It's an important part of how you build your authority. But it is a long-term aspect of business development, not a short-term one. But those people in your audience, and those people who bypass your audience stage altogether, who are really curious and consciously choose to engage with what you are saying, with what you are doing, so that they can see what happens for them when they do that, then those people are actually your community. And it is your community who get what you're talking about. They are curious to apply it. They want to understand it more, and they want to put it into motion. So they're taking that on board. They're listening to what you have to say. They're watching what you're doing, and they're going, okay, yeah, I can see how that shift is going to make a big difference. So that's a very different dynamic to your audience. Now, it's unsurprising then that your community is where you will find your more immediate clients, because they are ready to move. And they're not always absolutely ready to move, but that's the most common place you are going to find your next clients. So when it comes to business development strategy, you really want to be looking at how do you encourage people to move from an audience phase into a community phase, because that's going to be the piece that keeps them motivated and engaged in your work, and therefore more likely to become a client. So there has to be an engagement strategy or ethos that underpins the movement from audience to community. It doesn't have to be a huge number of people. It can be a very manageable number of people. But the point is that they need to be nurtured to continue that engagement. So a lot of people will focus on their audience to try and get this, but actually we want to be moving people into communities. So when you first set out in your business, you are going to be wanting to move people into your community very, very quickly in order to be viable. As you move on in your business, you are going to need to be focusing on your audience development as well, because that is where most of your community are going to come from. And obviously, when you actively engage in your community, you're giving them opportunity to be challenged and supported and engaged in some way, and whatever that means for your particular business, then some of those people are going to become your clients. Now, some people may, of course, as I said, completely bypass all of this and jump straight into being your client. But logically, you can't predict that. So you have to be working, and that would be the completely intuitive, totally trust in the grand order of things that was going to work out. That's not really very viable for a business structure. So creating this audience community flow that sets you up to have clients is an important part of how you design your business. So your clients are those people who are ready to seriously invest in working with you. And it's entirely down to you at what point that you make that distinction between somebody who's in your community and somebody who becomes a client. And that might be, that they make any payment to you, they become a client, or it may be that it's above a certain threshold, or it may just be the level of engagement that they have. So you could have a lot of free content that people were very engaged with. And if they were very engaged with, you would consider them to be a client because they would most likely continue their journey with you. So it's, working out exactly what is right for your business is an important part of that. So when you're working with your clients in whatever format you have, then obviously you are doing deep transformational work with them. And for some of those people, not all of them, but for some of those people, they are going to recognize and see that level of transformation. They're going to understand that it was you who made that possible. And so they are going to become your advocates. So the traditional client journey is a fairly linear approach to becoming to where somebody becomes a customer and then becomes a loyal customer. That's a very limiting structure when you're working in transformational conscious fields. We actually want to be creating an ecosystem through our businesses. We are creating a support, like a neural pathways, communication channels. We're creating a vibrant network through our businesses. So we want people to be aware, a bigger group of people to be aware of what we're doing, because when we're working at an audience level, we are changing the field of possibility. By sharing what we're sharing, we are changing how people perceive things, what they're prepared to do, what they feel that they have permission to explore and engage with. There's all sorts of things that happen by us working at that level. But then as we are filtering that down, we're going into more depth with that transformation. And then there are this group of people who are going to become a key part in the long run of your business network. They're going to be pathways through which people come to you. They're going to be a support system for your business, just as you will become a support system for other people's businesses. There's a lot of give and take in all of this. But what we need to do when we're looking at that client journey is look at every piece of it and design our response to every piece of it. Because unless you know what you're going to do with those group of clients who become your advocates down the line, when you take them on board, you don't know, you're going to be reacting to situations in which people have found it a very positive experience and want to do something, and you're a little bit on the back foot. But equally, if you only focus your attention on, working with your community and moving them into being your clients, and you don't address either end of the spectrum of the audience or the advocates, then your business is going to hit a glass ceiling. It's not going to be able to grow, because the growth areas of your business that are going to support your sustainable expansion are the audience and the advocates. So it's an important way of thinking about how do we thrive and flourish in the long term, and particularly when you're setting up a business in the early stages, or you're having a major pivot, being able to have sight of those long-term aspects of business development from the very outset is going to be the thing that makes the difference between you being able to thrive and really struggle in your business. Now, within this structure, people can move through it at different speeds. And again, you can't predict what somebody else is going to need, and you can't push that your preferred speed upon anybody else. What you can do, though, is plan and prepare for around what you are here to support. So instead of worrying about what a customer needs, what is their biggest need and what is their biggest pain point and what is their biggest pressure that they want to solve, and how do they want to do it, all of those things that are outside of your immediate control, and also subject to change all the time. We can look at which bits of this journey are you really designed within your zone of genius to work on. What are you able to really focus on? Because you can work outside of that and you probably will do in order to support your audience in particular. But it's really, really important to be able to say, right, this is the bit of the journey that I support. And understand that people can come in and out of that in so many different ways, but you're clear, you're focused on where you need to be putting your energy so that you can account for all of this wild and possibly random movement around you, because you are focused on what exactly you need to be delivering through your business. And that's a big change from the conventional model, because you're actually really focusing in on what you are designed to do. You're focusing in on your particular excellence and genius. You're focused in on your particular soul work. And so you are not going to be pushed about because of changing trends externally. You're going to understand how to function at your best and how to bring your genius to people, and support them to transform, because you're focused very clearly on the pieces that you need to be doing. So that's a big shift from the classic customer client journey, where it's all dependent on, on what that client wants or what that customer wants and how they want to access it and what they want, and you adjusting yourself to that. Understand that people are very diverse. They've got very diverse needs. They've got extremely different journeys that they're all on. So as a transformational business, you really need to focus in on the transformation that you offer and how you can support people to move from understanding that transformational need in order to, right through experiencing that transformation and being able to communicate that with others. So there's some big shifts that we need to make in terms of how we understand our business dynamics, how we understand our business thinking, business structures. Client journey is one example of that. There are many, many more that need to be deconstructed and rethought and rebuilt, and that has to happen in each and every single business. So if that's something you are really interested in pursuing in your own business, then please do get in touch and talk to me about how we might be able to work together to make that happen. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.